Welcome to the Jesus and Jiu-Jitsu podcast. This is episode 070. My name is Isaac Tauaefa, and I'm here with
John Straussberger.
Lucas Pinckard.
Dude, hold on. Before we started recording, we were joking around and laughing as usual.
I wasn't laughing.
Okay, well,
He really
Strauss and I
wasn't.
were cracking up, and then all of a sudden he just got real quiet and real serious, and he sat up in his chair, and he started talking he said, "Yes, brother." I said, "Are you ready to go?" He said, "Yes, brother in Christ." And I said, "What are you doing?" He said, "You don't like me? Pious?" And reserved. We'll see how this goes.
Oh, it's over. It's already over.
I like where it's
It's
headed.
already over.
Oh,
Me
yeah.
too.
Mm-hmm.
We need a little bit out of you. We need
Piousness?
yeah.
A little,
And just reverence.
piety.
Apparently with you two knuckleheads, y'all need me here to keep the peace.
I don't understand.
You understand.
No, because you two are the ones who have issues keeping the peace.
Mm-hmm.
All I do is have imagination.
Maybe.
This is the first time I've been back on since the Finger Guns episode,
I
where
know.
I was
Don't even
banned
say
for a
it.
month.
I know. I know.
I
YouTube
was put on
canceled
hosting
us.
Was it that
suspension
long?
Yeah, it's been like 4 episodes since I've been on. Yeah.
You've been locked up that entire time?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, you weren't locked up. Actually, I want to get into that
I'm
for a
back to
second.
keep the peace, guys.
Okay, okay.
I
Oh
had
my
so many
goodness.
people reach out like, you really are bringing the balance.
What's funny to me is that no one said anything to me about it until after you guys had said, like, I got tagged on a couple of like Instagram stories, but there was a lot of stuff from y'all that y'all were like, people are sending me messages about it. I'm like, nobo's saying a word to me.
They know that they'll encourage it if they text you about it.
Maybe that's what
so.
it is. Yeah.
I wish I would have been here for that.
Let's get after these Jocko goes real quick. Let's get some of this pizzazz going right now.
JP threw me under the bus last time. 3, 2, 1.
Yeah.
Why did you get thrown under the
Crispy.
bus for?
Because I was drinking coffee, and I brought them Jocko Goes. I gave
Right.
them Jocko Goes, and then when they cracked the can, I just took a sip of my coffee, and he was throwing some shade, right?
Yeah, he yeah.
You didn't
He
go-
was saying that he was the reason it wasn't.
did go-
He did.
Maybe that's where the shade.
Yeah, maybe so. Yeah.
This tastes great. It's that lemon lime
You
Jocko
haven't
Go.
had that one recently?
I have no.
It's very refreshing.
It tastes like. Okay, just hear me out. Do you remember
boy.
that?
Sierra Mist.
No, Lucas salt. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
You could,
Veruca salt?
Like no, when
No,
we were like in
Lucas
3rd or
salt.
4th grade, we used to
Yeah.
like eat that stuff just straight up.
It's
in
like
your hand.
a tahini kind
Yeah.
of thing. They get several different flavors of
You
it.
put
but
it
the-
on, like,
the primary
fruit and
one
all
is like
that.
lemon
It's a
lime.
Texas thing.
It's a Mexican thing.
Yeah.
We had
Yeah. But at school, it was just like super
You guys
popular.
wouldn't have had it in Memphis.
we have Mexicans in Memphis.
You do?
Yes.
You can edit that out.
No, that's fine. They do. It's the demographic truth. But yeah, so you would have
Don't
had
you
exposure.
trap me.
It's like a little green bottle, like a little green
I
bottle with a
probably
little
have.
duck on
I
the
probably
front.
have. Oh,
Yeah.
with a duck.
I think
Yeah,
so.
That sounds familiar. I'm
Yeah.
reaching
Yeah.
back into.
But
the,
it's lemon lime salt, and so this just has the same kind of lemon lime punch that I remember from that.
It's good. I like it.
Taking
a
me
lot.
back to 3rd
I
grade.
like it a lot.
So Lucas, I wanted to ask you about your recent camp that you were speaking at. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
No.
Okay, Josh, I like your shirt today.
This is a Father's Day special. My kids got me for Father's Day, so
If for those of you that can't see, it says middle-aged tactical turtles, and it is the perfect shirt for Strauss. It looks like 4 Raphaels, pretty much, because they're all red.
the original Ninja Turtles all wore red.
I didn't know that.
So,
Yeah, they did.
I didn't know that.
But
Whoa.
anyway,
Well, I mean, the original were all black and white, and then
Well-
when they colorized it, it was everybody was red.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yep, in the old Eastman and Laird comics.
Well,
I've got a buddy who's got the original 100. Yeah,
that's cool.
pretty cool.
so those are all wearing, but they're not just regular turtles. They're tactical turtles. They got knives and ARs, and they're ready to go. They're ready to party.
Night vision.
Yeah.
There you go.
They're middle-aged
This-
and tactical.
There's
love it.
the Lucas stuff.
Oh, I've
So
seen these.
the camp that I spoke at, Isaac, you were asking
Yeah.
about. So every year I do a couple of youth camps. The last few years I've been at Southwestern Theological Seminary preaching, and then this year I got to go to Glorietta, and I'll be in Centerville, Ohio, preaching at camps. And so this year's big big theme is revival generation. So we talked about what it means to be the revival generation. So I'll preach like twice a day. And since we were at this particular camp, we ended one camp in the morning and started the next camp in the evening. So it's preaching twice a day for 10 days straight.
Oh, wow.
Yep.
That's a lot.
Yeah.
For those of you that have no, like,
it's like
can't
5 months worth
conceptualize
of
that.
preaching
Bro,
in 10 days.
It is.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's a lot. And it's kind of hard to like just pull those out of a hat. Like there are speakers who get paid to speak all over the place, and so they really have their topic dialed.
Yeah.
You know? But this is not something that you preach every week, but you're preaching on different series through going through books of the Bible for your church. So I imagine that's what's the prep like on that?
So it's a little odd. Lifeway does a great job because when they pick their theme, one of the things that they do is they've got a guy. Oh man, his first name is leaving me right now. I'm thinking his last name is Agnew. I think it's not Todd Agnew. Todd Agnew is a worship leader, but anyway, Pastor Agnew takes it and he outlines basically 4 or 5 different tracks that we can take that fit within the theme of camp. So there's one that's you take what the kids are learning in their Bible study and then you kind of expand upon it. There's one that's just like an extra story about somebody who went through something that had to do with the theme of the day. Prayer, repentance, and obedience were the primary themes of the day. There was a track through Jonah that you could take. And then the one that I chose was going through the Gospels using the life of Jesus to exemplify all those things.
Sweet.
So, yeah, it's super cool to get the opportunity to get to do that. But it is really odd doing it like from week to week at camps because, like, for instance, if we're preaching multiple services on a Sunday, I'm preaching the same message, 2 or 3 times on the same day. You get an idea about your congregation, what that is like, how they're going to receive certain things, versus, all right, so I'm going to preach it Wednesday. Let me think of how this actually works. So I preached my first message Saturday night, and then I preached the same message again on Wednesday night to a completely different group of a couple of hundred students.
Yeah.
So you don't know how they're going to receive it. And when those messages are preached like a week apart, now it's like, what did I do that I really liked? What did I not do?
Yeah.
So it's a good opportunity to debrief your own stuff, right? And that's what our friends over at Mental Management Systems, one of the big things that they talk about is like that performance evaluation right afterwards. Mm-hmm. And so I don't always do it on my Sunday sermons, but it's really important whenever I'm doing camp so that I get that stuff dialed in. And now my next one's going to be like mid-July, so that's even going to be more strange.
Where is it at?
Cedarville, Ohio.
That's one in Ohio. Okay.
Yeah.
2 weeks as well?
No, that was just one.
Okay.
Yeah,
Sweet.
but
You might have already said all that.
So I'm going to preach a message that I preached twice this past week. Now I'm going to preach it again in a couple of weeks to a completely different audience, completely different group of students in a totally different location. And it's so weird kind of across the U.S. how the culture shifts. I don't think that's something that we really think about. But, the sort of the sarcastic stuff that you say here down south doesn't always land in the Midwest.
Yeah.
Right? Like
I've learned that with a little bit of travel lately.
Yeah, like they don't have that same type of humor, right? And it definitely doesn't work out on the West Coast. Right? Like if you're really sarcastic on the West Coast, a lot of times you come across just like as mean. Mm-hmm. And they don't they're like, I don't know what to do with it. And because they're so I don't know, I don't want to generalize too much, but for the folks out in LA that we hang with, right, that they're so bought into the ideas of self that whenever something that is sarcastic hits them, it's automatically like negative, and that we're a toxic person. It's like, okay, whoa, just tap the brakes here, man.
I haven't run into that, but typically when I'm traveling, it's echelon front. So like we're joking, we're normal, but you know the setting we're in.
Yeah.
The biggest I ran into was in New Jersey, and it was just it was a random thing. It's the first time someone's ever approached me. Like I realized if I'm in New Jersey, people know I'm not from New Jersey for my accent, even though to me,
what?
So we had some stuff I had to ship back before I got on my flight. So I went to FedEx, and I was just being polite to the guy, and just it's how I normally talk, like, thank you, sir, yes, sir, all this type of stuff. And he was like, why do you keep calling me sir?
It's weird,
and
right?
I was like, And at this point, I was joking. I was like, "I'm sorry, sir," and he laughed. Like he was being joking too, but he was like, "You put too much of that ma'am, sir stuff up here, we're gonna get offended."
It's weird.
And this guy was really cool, really joking,
So weird.
but it is kind of like a thing. Like he was like, "You're not from around here, are you?" I was like, "What gave me away?" But yeah,
Yeah.
that
That's
type
funny.
of stuff. Yeah,
It's just crazy how much that changes and how you have to shift some of the jargon, right? You don't shift your message. You don't necessarily change the delivery of your message as far as like your points and that kind of thing and how it comes across. But sort of the delivery system, like sometimes this is how I phrase it with Kirsten whenever we're talking about it, right? She loves ketchup on her French fries. Okay. In Canada, they love ketchup on macaroni and cheese.
Oh, yeah.
What they put on French fries is brown gravy.
oh yeah, and they call it
It's actually
poutine. Yeah,
Right? Yeah, so
Yeah.
brown gravy and that. So you like the substance is the same, but sometimes you got to change that a little bit of how you season it, the little sauce that's on it, in
I
order
like
to
that.
make
That's
sure
good.
that it's right for
Yeah.
for
That
the
it's
environment.
appetizing.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
I've
good.
never been to Canada, but there's a lot of poutine
Poutine.
in Michigan.
Oh, yeah,
I
yeah.
think it started getting close to there.
And that's that's where I had it.
so
But
good, man. There's a place in Dallas called Maple Leaf Diner, and they're from Canada, and they serve a bunch of Canadian stuff. But that's one of the things they have on there. And
Yeah,
if you
poutine
haven't
is
had
so
it,
like the
get it.
first time everybody was like, "You gotta get it, you gotta get it, you gotta get it." I was like, "Okay, I got it." I was like, "This is." I was driving.
oh,
And I was like, "This is a horrible
have to
idea. This is an
stop.
absolute wreck."
well, and
Yeah.
then being from
Yeah.
here, it's like, yeah, but we have carne asada fries.
Yeah, right.
But I did like it.
Yeah, it's not bad.
That was awesome.
So I'm going to Canada.
I'm not doing ketchup on my mac and cheese though,
No,
or on my quote craft dinner.
I have.
what it's
I
called
will
there.
draw
Yeah,
a
yeah.
line there.
Yeah, that's
Like the
offensive.
boxes of Kraft macaroni and cheese, they just say Kraft dinner on them, and they do have ketchup on the mac and cheese.
Wow,
They have
yeah.
ketchup flavored chips in Canada too,
Really?
which were like a
I
big
grew
thing.
up
I
with
think they have those in
people
Memphis.
from. I grew up with
Yeah, that makes sense.
family friends from Canada, and I
Yeah,
remember that was we'd have mac and cheese, and they'd put ketchup
Kraft
on
dinner.
it. That's
Mhm.
wrong. If
Yeah,
you're doing
Kraft
that, stop doing it. Okay, if you're doing that.
But look at this though. You're okay putting some mayonnaise in it for Hawaiian
mac and cheese. I mean, no, mac salad.
mac salad. Yeah,
Mac
sorry.
salad, yeah.
Yeah.
So
okay.
where's
all
the
right?
line?
I'll have grace. I'll have grace
There
on
you go.
them. I'm just saying.
There you go.
But isn't
that
that like
just
a totally
feels
different
like a
dish? Do you use
sin.
the? You're just using elbow noodles and
Yeah,
mayonnaise.
yeah. Well, and seasonings
Yeah.
and cutting
Seasonings and
Yeah.
carrots and things like
Ugh.
that.
Yeah.
It's great. It's great, man. You gotta have mac salad. You gotta have
A mac. I mean, it's all about like you have like warm barbecue or whatever you
Yeah.
do, and then like a cool mac salad. It's
with some rice. It's
getting
really
hungry
good.
right now.
I know, and also here's the thing.
We
I feel like
we always end up
Steven's
talking
not
about
even
food.
here.
I know.
Yeah.
I know. And we're well.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna heed some advice we got in a review, which was like, I love the podcast. I wish they would get into the topics sooner than a lot of the rambling that happens. But I love
We
this
just
podcast.
hit
so-
several of the topics. We just talked about several topics. We talked about camp. We
I
talked
know, I know.
about bad dinner choices.
Right.
Yep.
Yes,
we
sir.
talked about
and
delivery
yes, ma'am.
systems for good messages. Like,
That's true. And poutine.
We,
Who was
we
that
appreciate
review
your
from?
review.
No, I'm just kidding.
Thank you for your
We do
review.
appreciate your reviews.
Yeah.
Well,
so-
and we also want to thank Jocko Fuel.
Oh yeah, we got to get back to that.
Oh yeah,
Thank
we're really off the.
Thank you
rails.
so much, Jocko Fuel, for sponsoring
Thanks,
our
Jocko.
podcast and making it possible for us to do a lot in the ministry by giving us a discount code. So if you guys want to order some Jocko Fuel, go to jockofuel.com and use promo code JJJ10
Yup.
for 10% off your order. And that blesses the ministry. It also gives you a discount. So thank you for your support, Jocko Fuel, and thank you all for using our discount code to help support the ministry.
I
think
like
right-
the
I think-
I like the new hydrate.
Yeah, that's
Oh,
great,
yeah.
dude.
Yeah, the pre-made.
Oh, it's
Pretty good.
really good, and I like that it's clear.
Oh, look at that.
Yeah.
I think they're running a sale right now.
They were doing a buy one get one, but I don't know by the time this
It was
this
50.
comes out.
Buy one, get one 50%.
yeah,
off.
buy one
Yeah.
get one 50% off.
Bogo
Dude,
50.
and they do them so often. Like,
Yeah, you definitely want to get on the email list. And with your
Yeah.
first purchase, you save an extra 20%. So
yeah,
it's pretty
there
good.
was. I guess it was Memorial Day.
Mhm.
The deal was so good that it was
It was better than your
better
wholesale
than my
deal.
wholesale.
I remember
account.
that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and it was like, wow,
Mm,
it's good.
Yarp.
Yarp, we love it.
awesome. Well, again, thank you all for listening to this podcast and helping us support through Jocko Fuel, and also I did this at the end of the last one, but I'll just say it up front. Well, it really helps us out if you make a recurring contribution to the ministry, which you can do from our page, JesusandJujitsuUSA.com. There's a give button right on the front page. And you can set a recurring amount for any amount, even if it's $5 a month. That is a huge blessing to the ministry to be able to reliably depend on a certain amount per month, or at least generally plan around an amount. So thank you so much for believing in what we're doing and supporting.
We got some cool stuff coming down the pipe too that we're working on.
Yeah,
it'll be pretty dope.
So dope.
Yeah, sick.
Speaking of sick stuff, You got some sick stuff for us, Strauss. Aside from this knife, which I'll take out of your hand, give that to me.
What kind of knife is that?
Tell him, Isaac.
Well,
look at this side.
Hold on, I'll show it to him in a second.
Yeah,
I just want you to know this is a knife.
Isaac talks about this, find your place in your book.
This is a knife.
Yep, I knew that.
That you get.
Thanks, Paul Hogan.
From
That's not a knife.
This is a very awesome knife from an awesome knife maker.
Okay, boy, you're being so vague.
Well, I'm just saying. I'm just explaining that this is not a knife that everybody gets to have.
Okay.
Anybody can get that knife.
No, not anybody can just get it.
Okay.
He got it.
Hold on. Yeah, you carry on.
Yep.
Yeah.
Keep going.
Yeah.
Thus far, I've learned nothing about the knife.
Except that it's a knife.
Here, look here.
Oh, sweet.
Yeah, it has a half of a face on it.
Yeah.
I can't remember what the
cool.
name of it is, but it has a half of a face on it.
There you go.
On the blade.
That makes sense.
No, this is half face blades. Incredible knife manufacturer, and also a former.
Yes.
Former, not retired.
Former
Yeah.
Navy SEAL.
Yep.
Friend of our brother JP Donnell.
You can find him at Spec Operator on the Instagrams. Yep.
And you can find this knife for sale. You can add to cart right now on the website.
No, here's the difference.
I want the knife.
Since
you're already on it, you can just go ahead and add another one to your cart.
What I'm saying is there's a difference when you order it online versus ordering it online from a friend of your friend. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Here,
No, that's...
you didn't get it online. You got this.
Am I gonna get to see it?
There you go. Oh, that was the other difference. He didn't order it online.
Oh, that's cool.
He bought it in person from the shop.
Oh, nice.
When we got a tour.
Yeah, and I bet your greasy fingerprints are still on the display glass in the shop.
No doubt.
So they don't have display glass in the shop.
Okay.
It really is cool. All jokes aside,
Yeah,
we
that's
got
a
to see the
sexy
tour, and like I used to. So they do a lot of it's all handmade, but then some of the stuff they do CNC machines to cut out stuff, and I used to do that before I.
Did you really?
Gyms, yeah.
I didn't know.
That's
We
cool.
made medical implant parts, so screws, pins, rods.
Dude,
all
I've
that.
got a CNC machine if you want to teach me how to use it.
I'm gonna have to really blow the dust out, but
Yeah,
so
for sure.
I was a CNC machinist, but it was really cool to see. But what was really cool is like, if you follow them on Instagram, they've got all kind of cool stuff. But they do special drops, and they'll start announcing them and showing you pictures of them. Like the drop goes live noon on Saturday, whatever. And you're not going to get any of those. I mean, I've been following them for like 10 years, and they sell out within like 0.2 seconds.
Yeah.
But there's just these Craftsman toolboxes, and they're all labeled, and like you pull the drawers out, and they have stuff they've already made, but then one of the drawers was upcoming drop, and you pull it out and you just see it in there. It was really
They're
cool.
glorious.
That's
really cool.
sick.
Just the light shining from them.
Very cool people too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can't wait to check it out someday.
Yeah.
Well,
But until then, go check out Spec Operator. His stuff is amazing. His stories are great on Instagram, and just a super, super cool dude, and an incredible service member and craftsman. Yeah.
Strauss, you got something for us?
I got a little something.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna read a scripture first,
Sweet.
and then
I'm just gonna keep playing with this knife.
yeah, go ahead.
Cool.
And then I've got a little excerpt from a book. It's from John Lovell.
Yeah.
It's called The Warrior Poet Way. Now, the little excerpt I'm going to read today is technically geared more towards men, but
Technically, huh?
it pretty much is,
Okay.
not just allegedly. But I think there's some value that everybody would get. I would say anybody could read this book, not just men, obviously. So, any lady listeners out there?
There are a lot of these books that are geared towards men that I would recommend for women,
Yeah.
especially for moms.
Yeah.
You know, And I know that part of the Jesus and Jiu-Jitsu discipleship group that y'all are doing is a book that it was written to a male audience, but that is also something that's really beneficial for moms and for women and to read, because it kind of outlines the kind of guy that you should be looking for, or that you should be encouraging your husband to be. And I think that that's an important thing.
And with this, like a lot of the principles, he is a dude, so he's writing, talking to other dudes like he would talk. But it's
I in leading to that discipleship group, I sought some counsel from Lucas and from our brother Matt Chandler as well, just kind of like saying, hey, here's the book that we're really leaning toward doing. It's geared toward men heavily. I mean, it's all about men. But how do we go about that? Is that appropriate for, a mixed group or whatever? And the feedback I got from both of you, which was cool, just kind of some confirmation for me, which was like, hey, you win. If you win the dad or you win the husband, you win the family.
Yep.
And so this is, like you said, Lucas, this is a great way to, it's a great way to teach men and also teach women how to either support their husbands or their sons that they're raising, or if they're single, maybe looking for a man that lines up with these, principles.
These
and
are the kind
values.
of characteristics and things that you want to see. It also, so much of these types of books, they share the cautionary tale of like when a man uses his strength in a negative way, and some of the pitfalls and traps that we fall into as men. And so I think it does help not just men and their brothers kind of recognize, hey, it looks like you may be slipping into this, that, or the other thing, but it also kind of shows, particularly like wives and moms, like, hey, you know what? If these things start to happen, then these could be indicators that something bigger, deeper, different is going on than what you see on the surface.
right.
Yep.
Anyway, Joshy.
All right. So I'm going to read Micah 6:8.
Oh, yeah.
He hath showed thee, O man, what is good, and what doth the Lord require of thee, but to do justly, and to love mercy, and to walk humbly with God.
Awesome.
So the little, I don't know if I've ever heard that verse before. So, I mean, I've read the whole Bible before, but you know how it is. I read it, it popped out. So this is kind of talking about the measure of a man. So I'm just going to read 3 pages, so bear with me.
Is that the name of the book? Sorry. The measure.
3 pages.
The
Warrior Way.
Poet, the Warrior Poet Way, John Lovell. He's a former Army Ranger. He has a tactical gear and training company called Warrior Poet Society. They've got merch. They've got guns, plate carriers, all that type of stuff. But he's a believer.
Yep.
And
he's a great teacher.
Pretty
man.
vocal about it. I think he's maybe a pastor.
Oh, cool.
Or at least
bum.
Yeah, right. Or a pastor in the way that JP says he's not when he goes to church and
preaches,
shares things, but it's not.
Yeah.
All right. So the measure of a man comes down to what priorities he sets for himself and how well he balances them. In regard to the question of what a man is worth, a 20-something will offer a radically different answer from that of a 40-something. And they should. My grandfather turned 90 recently, and he's answering the question differently from a guy in his 30s who's trying to move up in life. All of this should offer us some perspective on what the good life really looks like. You're going to land in all kinds of unpredictable places in life, doing things you never planned for. When you're young, your vocation often feels like everything. But as you get older, your priorities adjust, and you realize your legacy is more than just what you can accomplish. Your worth is found in something deeper, in the lives of your children and loved ones, in the private relationships that have nothing to do with who may remember you 100 years from now. You may end up broke, but full of true riches. Life is an adventure filled with trials and disappointments, incredible successes and astounding failures. And you are none of these things. You are something more. For my part, I've decided that faith is my most important priority. So if I crush it in every other area of life but look nothing like Jesus at the end of my life, then that's a failure. Goodness for me means trying to be better on a daily basis while recognizing the areas where I fall short and vowing to do better next time. Living a life worthy of my calling means aligning with what matters most and living as close to that as I can. When I act in accordance with my greatest values, life is good. When I don't, trouble is nearby. Another priority is my marriage. You really have to nail this. No happily ever after happens accidentally, and I've learned that you've got to pour lots of time and intentionality into any important relationship, especially when it comes to a spouse. Your intimate relationships affect you at the deepest level and ripple out into every other area, so you don't want to screw this up. It takes daily focus to make marriage work, and without it, the relationship will die. The same goes for children. I want my kids to know me and want to spend lots of time making memories with me. Children emulate what we show them, so if I consistently demonstrate that a career is more important than family, what do you think they're going to reflect back to me as they get older? They won't have any time to hang with their old man because they'll be doing exactly what I taught them. I want to make an impact on the world, but it all starts at home, where my influence is greatest. I also have to pay the bills, so I'm not shy about admitting I'm going to benefit from working hard. We all need to earn well so that we can be charitable to those in need and be good providers. There's nothing wrong about being great at what you do so that you can take care of the ones you love. It's also good to want to work on yourself, both physically and mentally. This is another kind of greatness that affects all areas of my life. I want to be a good protector, so I allocate a certain amount of time to training myself to be the best defender possible. But it doesn't end there. I want to be able to serve others. No man is an island, so I want to serve the communities of which I am a part. I want to love others well and be a force for good in the world, speaking up in the face of injustice and being an all-around good citizen. All of these things require balance. Some might say that you have to give everything your all, but that just doesn't work. You can't give 110% to everything all the time, as I discussed in the last chapter. To maximize one area of my life at the expense of these other key priorities will be counterproductive. If I focus too much on work at the expense of my family or vice versa, I'm cooked. Goodness means knowing what matters most and managing your priorities and responsibilities accordingly. Ultimately, the success of a man rests on what values he sets for himself. What's most important to you? How well can you balance those things? You want your priorities to be in harmony with the rest of life so that you can keep balance going. You don't need to become an idealistic picture of absolute awesomeness. You just need to focus on what you already know you need to do, balancing all of it as best you can.
Where did you find this book? Was it something that somebody recommended to you, or?
I am newer to him, so I found him. So I ordered a gun belt from his website.
Yep.
Okay.
And I think Steven recommended the belt to me. He's like, "Oh, it's great. It's great for concealed carry, all this type of stuff." Didn't say anything about the guy, but then as I started looking at him, I was like, "Oh, this dude's interesting."
Yeah.
So, followed him on Instagram, and then he's got a podcast, and then I saw he had a book, so I thought it was pretty cool. So
That's
that
awesome.
kind of came organically. Like
Yeah.
he wasn't really in my sphere or loop
Yeah.
of knowledge. But after I got the book, I know I've talked to Steven about it. He's read it. He's a big fan of the guy too. So
Yeah.
Right on.
But yeah, it was just kind of random. Like he's got cool quality gear, and
Yeah.
it just kind of led me down the path.
You said he's former Ranger?
Yeah,
Yeah, those bad dudes, man.
yeah.
Yep.
I love his stuff. I've followed him a little bit just because, like, yeah, the algorithm on YouTube would show you kind of related videos of other things that I've seen or,
This
channels
is
I like.
my first time hearing the guy's name. So
Okay.
yeah.
But
He's
then I saw him.
hilarious
Yeah,
too.
yeah.
Like
Really?
he did an Instagram post the other day. This is sidetracking it, but
Yeah.
he's outside. It's a selfie video, and he's talking about homeschool, and he's like, people think homeschool kids are going to be weird, and then his kid comes by on roller skates with a leaf blower shoved between his legs, blowing around. He's like, that couldn't have happened at a worse time. So
Yeah, he's funny.
Very funny.
I saw
Yeah.
a clip of him, though, talking about marriage, and I thought, man, this is awesome because he wasn't, before you know somebody like that, especially like even like Jocko, right? We know him very well because of our connections, but and we know that like the perception of him outside of that, it's the same with this guy. You're just like, oh, he's just gonna be like, oh, oh, you failed. That sucks. You need to try harder. You're it's like kind of that. You think there's going to be sort of a drill sergeant type person, you know, and they're not. I mean, like, guy's hilarious, but he also really cares about his family and cares about his marriage and cares about honoring God and everything he does. So it was really cool to kind of dive into that, but to find him through whatever tactical shooting stuff and then discover that he has a lot more going on under the surface. So
I'm a big fan of the Sean Ryan podcast, and really he was on that is when I really
you first got kind of keyed into him.
Yeah, so it's episode 80. He did like a really like a 4-part podcast. So I guess the entirety of it is like 6 hours, but he breaks it up into like 4 sections. So you learn about him and then his belief, his faith, and all that stuff too.
That's cool.
So
I do think it's really interesting the balance that he's talking about striking, right? Is that you have to, like, you've got to find the balance between work and family, and it seems like there is no balance there. That there's one of those two things is always going to be out of balance. Like, you're either going to be, this is a struggle that I'm having with young kids, right? So Levi's 22 months old, and at the time of this recording, like, Scotty is 11 weeks old today. And so there is that certain amount of like, all right, I want to be home, I want to be present, helping out wherever I can, but also, like soaking up this time. But if I'm spending, 11 hours at home on a Tuesday during the day so that I can be there with the kids, well, then 0 work got done, which means that those kids aren't going to have a roof over their head if I keep that up, right? Yeah. So there's a really weird balance that you have to strike of like, the desire to be involved and the necessity to provide.
Yeah.
Right. And where those two things are. But I love what he says about, if I'm successful in every area of my life but I'm not reflecting Christ, then I've failed.
Right.
No. Yeah.
That's well, and I think one of the points you bring, and it's something that I've had to learn. Now, I don't travel near as much as JP and a lot of the other guys, but I travel a lot more than I ever have. And this year I've already been gone a lot.
Yeah.
And like August next month, I think I'm home 10 days all month.
Mm-hmm.
The intentionality behind it is what really spoke to me. And that's a lot of people have asked me, and I've had the pleasure of being on 2 other podcasts interviewed. I don't know why, but it's a question that comes up, like how are things at home with that? And so far I can say they've been good because the times I am home, I'm intentional with my time home, and that to me is, if you look at it on the surface, just take my month of August, I'm working way more than I'm at home.
Yeah.
But the balance of that is when I am at home, I'm intentional with my time at home, so I feel like it brings a nice balance.
Yeah, I mean, you kind of grew up with a dad that was like that, right? Like, how often was CeeLo at home? I know they typically wanted to be like a week on, a week off, or 2 weeks, and then 2 weeks most months, but that didn't always work out.
No, there would be months where he'd be gone for 3 weeks and come home for a few days and then have to be gone for another week. Most of the time it was like he'd be gone for a week and then home for a week.
Yeah.
More often, it started to happen more often. I don't remember the season of life, but it was like 2 weeks on, 1 week off, sort of.
Yeah,
is the pattern it took. Yeah, man, that was hard. I know my dad loved me, and the way that he showed it was, my dad's like acts of service, like he just doing stuff for us, and being there, and like he would always leave to come to our games if he was in a neighboring state at all. If he was within like a 10 or 11 hour drive, he'd drive back for our Saturday morning football games, and then he'd drive back that day.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, he almost never missed games. And that was one that he showed us that he loved us. But yeah, we did thankfully when he was home, he didn't have like take home work, there wasn't a lot of homework for what he did. So he'd be home, and we could really just like be together. And that was super important. But I'm having, I'm in the same boat as you guys with just being super busy in this season of life. But it's a big struggle for me to really maximize my time at home, because what happens is I get home, and I don't know if you guys are like this, but I'm like, if I could just like I have emails or texts or something. I'm like, I want to knock these out because I don't want to be thinking about them. I feel like I'm robbing my family of time because I'm not, even if I'm not on my phone, I'm hanging out with them, but I'm thinking about replying to that email,
Yep.
thinking about getting that task done before I forget to do it, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And so it's like, and I want my wife to know, I'm like, hey, I'm sorry, if I could just knock this out, then I could really give you my time and attention. But what happens is it takes until the kids are after bed, and I'm like, okay, now I'm ready. And she's like, I'm tired, I'm going to bed, you know?
Yeah.
And that happens, that's been happening more often. And I'm just being vulnerable, and because I feel like maybe it could help some other people. Like, yeah, man, that's me too.
I'm not claiming I have all the answers, but one thing you can do is like the email can go in the morning.
Yep.
You can still get it done that day after the time with Kim and the kids.
Yep.
And you can even have it typed up as a draft, and then in the morning all you do is hit send. Like I get it because your mind won't shut down.
Yeah.
That's what takes the training. Also, it's different for you guys because y'all have small kids.
Yep.
Mine are getting older now, so
And they have things they want to do.
right. And that helps with the wife too,
Yep.
because like you want to be able to help, especially like with babies.
little babies.
Oh, yeah.
You got a lot of job stuff. Mine are pretty self-sufficient now,
Yeah.
so like I'm not having to balance that to take a load.
They know
off
where
my
the
wife.
sourdough is.
Yeah,
They can make
do.
a sandwich.
Even
tomorrow.
the dogs
Yeah.
know where that is.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is. Right now in the season that we're in, what I'm doing is when I'm in a similar situation, is I'm just like I'm putting it in my reminders.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then once I get Levi to bed, then because that's right now he is. I was talking to Chandler about this probably a month or so ago.
Yeah.
Because he was like, when your wife has. When you've got two young kids, he's like the oldest one is like he becomes your kid for a little while.
Yeah,
Right?
that's true. Yeah.
Yep.
And it was funny because Kirsten and I were talking, and I was like, yeah, all right, well, I'm gonna go get my kid to bed. I'm like, hold on. She's like, they're both our kids. I was like, yeah,
And I know.
yeah, sort of,
But
like
you're
this
managing
one,
this one,
and
because
she's
I
managing-
can't,
right?
and-
Yeah,
Yep.
And with the next one, we're gonna have to move to zone defense, so then it's gonna be a totally different thing. But
Yours are how big apart?
we are, oh man, so. I think it's like right at 19 months.
Yeah.
But if you do the adjusted age, it's like 17. And they're like, some people are like, you have to do it off the adjusted age because the NICU time, and some are like, whatever. But yeah, they're 19 months apart.
About a year and a half.
Yeah. But it's wild. And right now they're like enamored with each other, which is great.
Yeah.
But as soon as, while I was gone at camp, one of the ladies who is just phenomenal community member, like wonderful church member, her and her husband both were. Her husband passed away several years ago. She passed yesterday. And when you're finding the balance of like what is what, like that email that I need to send out, I'll pop open my reminders on my phone, put it in my reminders, and then I check that before I go to bed, right? So like I'll put Levi down before I go in there with Kirsten. I'll pop the laptop up, and then I'll deal with all of those things so that time that we've got when everybody's awake and when her stress levels are sort of at the height, then I'll do that. And one of the things that getting into that pattern has done is I don't want to state this necessarily the wrong way, but it's set an expectation. I'll put it that way. Because there are some people that are like, oh, you have to train your subordinates to blah, blah, blah. I'm like, no. It sets an expectation that I'll get back with you, but that I have this window every day that is my window with my family. Then there's a really just wonderful pastor who is in his 80s now, named Jimmy Draper. And he said that every day he had this window with his kids from like 3 to 5:30. That was his family time. Mm-hmm. If there was an accident or something that happened, if it happened between 3 and 5:30, then he wouldn't get to it until afterwards, because you're kind of with pastoring and also with entrepreneuring, like you're sort of on the clock all the time, right? If you're building your own business, there's no two ways about it. But having that window of like, hey, if something comes up, then it gets put in the reminders, or it's in the, I write a note that I got to get to it later. And, when that time comes, when the clock is up on that other stuff, then it's time to,
right.
time to get
You just
after
have to be real, like, disciplined about it and training your
Super
brain.
intentional.
Because same, I mean, I have the things I do. I'm not only working professional up front when I'm traveling, like I'm doing stuff when I'm home, but also like I still have my gyms too. So I get like the brain is always like, oh, I gotta do this, gotta do this, gotta do this.
Especially if you're forgetful, like
The
which
lists,
I can be. No,
the
that's why. Well, I'm thankful. Kind of both of those things are applicable. Reminders, or drafting up the email, and it could be sent in the morning. I'll tweak it in the morning and send it off. But just having the reminder to do it, and that maybe that being enough to like, okay, it's handled. Even though it's not completely done, I know that it's at a point where tomorrow I can knock it out easy.
Because at the end of the day, like it's 5 o'clock, you're home with the kids.
Yep.
You send in that email at 5 o'clock. Are they getting it at 5 o'clock? I mean, they might, but
they're at
nothing. There's no
right.
Yeah.
Typically, there's no traction going to happen with whatever that deal is at 5 o'clock at night.
Yeah.
Yep.
So.
And it is a weird thing too when you like JP made a post a few weeks ago about he was talking to small business owners and entrepreneurs, and he was like, how many hours a week do you work? And we talked a little bit about the difference between active working and then like like your brain
Busyness.
never shutting off,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
There's like, because I'm working all the time,
Yes.
right? I'm trying to pull sermon analogies, or we're looking at podcasting stuff, or we're trying to figure out, when we're going to do our next event at whatever venue it's going to be at, or, what camps and stuff are going to look like. So there's anything that is happening around me, like I'm always thinking of it in terms of how it fits what I do in order to make myself better. But I may only have 70 or 75 hours a week where I'm actively working.
Yes.
Right?
I remember that I answered it, and in my answer I just put the hours I put in physically at the gym, and then we talked about it after, and it was the same thing. Like, that's really not all of it, but like.
Yeah, but to the point of the author, like there is something to like showing your kids, and especially like when you're leading your family, to showing them how that works, how you operate in that sphere. But when we're talking about being intentional, right, that it's really easy for me to check out during those moments when I'm having a thought about work stuff in the middle of everything. And my kids don't, I mean, they're not at the age where they understand things a lot yet, right? Like Levi's starting to get there. But Kirsten's been like, talk to him about what you're thinking. I'm like, that's so dumb. He doesn't, like, if I talk to him about what I'm thinking, it doesn't, like, it's not going to penetrate. And she was really gracious, and she was like, it's not about him understanding, it's about you creating this habit to start doing that, so that when you start to zone, or when you like get really excited about an idea, that you are in the habit of explaining it to him, so that when he gets to that age where he can understand it,
that'd be great.
That it's going to be good. And she's like, and you're going to like, he's going to get it way before you think he will.
Bro.
I'm like,
that's actually great wisdom. So Zeke, we're at this stage now, all my kids are kind of, even my youngest one now is kind of starting to like, Dad, she wants my attention specifically. It's not, I know that like when they're, like Scotty doesn't care. Yes, he wants mom, but I'm saying like if he has a wet diaper, he's like, okay, somebody change me. He's not like, Dad, I need you specifically to do this. My kids are like, no, I want Dad to do this. Like, or
Levi's
Dad
getting there.
Oh yeah, exactly. So she's kind of close to Safina's age. She just turned 2 a little bit ago. So that's a different dynamic now, because they really want my attention specifically. Or Zeke will come up to me with something, and he's like, Dad, look what I built. He's like, I'm like in the middle of typing up an email, and I'm like, okay, hold on, how do I word this, And he's like, Dad, look, this is a rocket booster, and then underneath this, it has like a grappling hook. And I'm like, and I want him to know I care about what you're doing, and what you have to say is ultimately more important than what I'm doing. But there's also a balance, and like he said, like the author said, like, I also need to show them. He said, show them that their priority. Sorry, I can't even read my own handwriting.
It's because you're left-handed.
We're trying to write in this spine here with the left spine. That your kids also have to see you working, and that you're not really. You can't really help them if you don't have enough to like be able to give and bless other people and take care of your family. So there's a balance between working to provide and also prioritizing them, and so that's the dichotomy right now.
Well, that's the thing, as they get older, which is exactly what you guys are saying. They'll start to put that together. And and if JP was on this one, he's way better at this even. But like as I am doing that more, like you can find that balance. Also because their understanding is more too.
Yes.
Like,
Yeah.
hey, they want to be homeschooled.
Yes, yeah.
They want mom to stay home. So
Yep.
dad is the only one working.
Yes.
So like there is this level of knowledge as they advance that they're like, oh, I get it.
That's
you know?
great. Well, and I think Zeke's kind of starting to he's able to conceptualize that. But like what Lucas was saying, me being able to talk to him about just like making a habit of like bringing him into your world a little bit. He's also got some funny ideas and sometimes some good ideas, you know, and but bringing him in, forming that habit, like he'll start to understand, like, oh, you're not just zoning out, you're not just ignoring what I'm saying, like you're actively trying to work while you're also hanging out with us and stuff like that. So, I think that's a great. I've taken, you know, in humility, asking you guys because I truly do need more help. That's an area of my life I know that I can improve in. Like right now, I could go home today and start implementing some of this stuff today, and instead of nighttime when I start getting like, okay, here's what I got to knock out for tomorrow, and here's all this stuff. Just making a quick list of things. There's some things I might need to get knocked out real quick.
Yeah.
A lot of times if
You
I
have to
communicate that
prioritize
to
that,
Kim and I'm like, hey, babe.
There's still P&E in all of it, right?
Yeah.
And that's the difference too, is because like if you start training your brain that way, there are going to be those things that pop up like, I've got to get this done.
Yeah.
Well, you've already got the capital built up. Like I've been doing a good job with this balance it, but like this one I got to get done, and they're going to understand that.
And I have to say that there are very few things that feel as pointless to me as explaining to my 11-week-old why I'm doing something, right?
Yeah.
Or, you know, she's like, well, just talk to him about what you're doing. I'm like, no, I'm not going to do that because in my room alone, you know, he's laying on the bed and I'm like, Daddy's folding socks. He's gonna like, it just feels and seems like utterly ridiculous. But, you know, like she was talking about creating that habit. And then one of the things that I've really noticed, so we have a friend who works for the Daily Wire. His name is Ethan Nicole, and Ethan Nicole is he's a phenomenal animator, comic book artist, and he created this comic called Axe Cop with his younger brother. So Ethan was like 24, and his brother Malachi was like 5 or 6, right? So they had a huge gap between them. His dad remarried, and they had a surprise baby, and so Ethan's like trying to do something to connect with his younger brother, and so he goes and Malachi's the younger brother. Malachi's playing with his toys. And, you know, when you're that age, like all of your toys are mismatched. All the accessories are just in the bottom of the bucket. So you just grab whatever you can. So he grabbed a cop and he had a fireman toy also, but he couldn't find the fireman toy. However, the cop had the fireman's axe. And he's like, oh, this is Axe Cop. Do you want to come play Axe Cop with me? And Ethan's like, yeah, well, why not? And he just started drawing everything that Malachi was talking about. So it becomes this like viral webcomic. It spins off into an FX show. Like Nick Offerman ends up voicing Axe Cop. And so it's like this huge thing that's a couple of seasons long. And it's really gory, which is kind of funny because, you know, it's a 4-year-old who's, 4, 5, 6-year-old who's explaining all of this stuff. And he's like, yep. And then Axe Cop chops off his head. And so yeah, when you're playing that game with a kid, like you don't really think about it, but when you have to animate it, like all of a sudden now it's like, whoa, wow, it's really violent.
Yeah.
But one of the things he talked about was like asking him why stuff happened. Yep. And with Zeke, what I'm thinking is like, as he's showing you this rocket ship, and he's like, oh, he's got these rocket boosters that like asking him, well, why does he need rocket boosters? Yeah. And one of the things that has really stood out to me lately is like building a story with our kids. Mm-hmm. And Kirsten and I, again, we differ on a lot of things, which is why we're good complementary partners, right? Yeah. But I love making up stories. I have since I was a kid. I think all 4 of us got in trouble, me and my siblings, at one point in time because we said something ridiculous that Dad told us. And somebody was like, that's not true. And we're like, yes, it is. My dad said it was, right? With my sister, my dad convinced her from a very young age that you spelled daddy Hero. And so like she like got into a legit argument with her first grade or kindergarten teacher about it, and like the principal had to be called in. My brothers and I both swore that my dad was a pirate, and so like there are all of these things, right? So Kirsten is not, you know, we're on this road trip. We don't have books for the kids that are like readily available. She had them packed in a bag, and she was like, what, you know, I don't know what to do. And I was like, just make up a story. She's like, I can't make up a story on the spot. I was like, well, just start asking him questions. And so I'm sitting in the front, I said I'm sitting in front, I'm driving to the front, and I'm asking Levi, I was like, hey, Levi, what's going on with, so, like, he has a little stuffed dog named Ranger. And I was like, what's Ranger doing? And he's like, oh, Ranger's in the cup holder. It's like, yeah, does he need to get out? And then, so we start just like building the story of like why he needs to get out. How did he get stuck? And all that. And even though he's 2 and he's saying like ridiculous things, right? That we start building that story and building the why and all of those kinds of things. When we get older, one of the things that we realize is the power of story is really what compels us to do anything. Mm-hmm. And this is one of the things that a lot of brands have gotten sort of hip to in the past few years is story branding and storytelling and that kind of thing. I mean, Donald Miller, the guy who wrote Blue Lake Jazz, has completely pivoted his entire like New York Times best-selling author now into story brand, which is like what he does is to help brands build and tell their story so that other people are compelled to do it. Those really little things, asking why and trying to just take a few moments to build a story, are incredibly important, because if you're home for 10 days, like that intentionality is going to, that you give in those 10 days is going to be incredibly important. I think you do a great job of that. Cody Gandy, who, you know, if you follow him on Instagram, he's just disgusting with his workouts, but also is an incredible dad.
Yes.
But it's easy to look at that and be like, oh, well, he's got 10 days to be intentional. You can have the same impact with 30 minutes a day with your kid, right? They say up until the age of 5 that if you are intentional with your kid for 15 minutes of child-led play, right? So for 15 minutes, you put the phone away, you check out, and whatever your kid wants to do, like that's it. You go immerse yourself in what they want to do up until the age of 5, right? That is all that they need from their parent in order for them to feel secure and loved.
Right.
Like that 15 minutes of intentional.
And they'll remember it.
Absolutely. Right. And so I think that there's a lot of us that feel like, you know what, I was home from, you know, I came home early to help you with the kids, and that, you know, we were just doing stuff until 6 p.m. But that whole time we've been distracted by the phone, or we've been trying to cook dinner, or like do all of these other things. And we are more checked out daily than, you know, somebody like Josh, you're traveling 20 days in August, right? But I may be home every day, but if I'm checked out and I'm doing other stuff, then
might as well good as being gone.
Then it's as good as being gone. Dude, and a lot of times it's worse, because your kid, to Isaac's point, like it's got to be wanting your attention, right? And then you're like, no, you can't.
That's where they feel what he's saying here. Like, if I consistently demonstrate that a career is more important than family, what do you think they're going to reflect back to me as they get older? That's where
that's what I wrote down. As I said, show them that they're a priority. Sorry, that's what I was trying to read my handwriting there. It was from that point.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. But that's totally true. I need to show them that you are a priority, even if that doesn't mean, hey, every time you talk, it's like I have to drop everything. You also need to teach them, like, there's an order to things. Dad needs to work. We got to provide, like you said. I want you to be homeschooled. I want to be able to feed you and provide for you. Yeah. And in order to do that, I got to work on work. And so I'm getting better at that. I'm getting better at it, but I'm never perfect. And so absorbing and learning and gaining wisdom from other people's experience is what my goal is.
Right.
I also love this, what he said, the measure. I don't know if he said it this exact way, but it's essentially the measure of a man is the priorities he sets and how well you balance and execute those.
That's basically what he said.
Yeah. So it's kind of a paraphrase, but it's like that. I've never thought about it that way, that it's like, because a lot of that's just succinctly put in a way that it's like, well, that's actually something you can grab onto and kind of like measure yourself against.
Yeah.
What priorities have I set? So I'm judged there. And then also, how well am I balancing and executing on those priorities is the other measure.
And then to throw a whole nother wrench into it, he adds the part of work on yourself physically and mentally. So, you know, your bandwidth is here, and we're talking about taking all of that up with work and family, but then also you need to physically train something, and you need to mentally train yourself too. So
and there's ways to do that with your kids, man.
Yes.
And that was what, you know, Cody's great about that. He shows him doing like his EMOM workouts with his kids.
And they're out there getting after it with them.
Yeah. With kids, my kids' age, it's more difficult, but like if I'm doing air squats or something like that at the house, all it means is that I have to modify my behavior. I have to
Right.
get out of my mind that I need to go to the gym in order to get in a good workout.
Yeah.
Right?
You can pick up Levi and do some air squats.
Yeah. So, or I can just do air squats by Levi and he'll just watch me. And then eventually like he'll
He
do,
starts-
he'll
yes.
do one
Yep.
or two, right?
Oh, yeah.
Or instead of, put the gym membership on pause for 6 months. And whenever you do that, like your rate goes down halfway. Use that extra money and get you one of the baby carriers, the tactical dad carrier or the baby Bjorn or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Levi. So we were in the mountains of Glorieta at this youth camp. And I'm walking like 4 or 5 miles a day and we're doing like plus or minus 800 feet at elevation and almost all of these walks, right? The 2-year-old can hang pretty well for about a half an hour.
Yeah.
Right.
Right. And then, but the falls downhill are really hard.
Yeah.
And we had some incredibly bloodied knees and stuff like that. But tough kid gets up. The only time we realized that his knees were like nasty and bleeding is when he was crying. And he was like, I need help. And we came back and he was like, my pants. I'm looking at his pants. His pants are stuck to his bloody knees because he's been like falling down, but not complaining about anything, just like popping back up.
Wow.
Yeah. So at that point you're like, oh, I'm a terrible parent because I'm not really, my child's bleeding, but also like what a tough little dude. Right.
Yeah.
So the rest of the week he was just like, he wanted to be in the carrier. Whenever we were going out, like he'd want to walk for a little bit, but if we were going on a long walk, he was just looking at me and he's like, backpack? I'm like, yeah, absolutely.
Come on.
Right?
Sweet.
Like, I don't need to go spend $400 on a ruck. I got a kid that is ready and willing, like to just hop in the bag and go.
And roll.
Yep, 100%. And then when we get to a fork in the road, and I'm like, all right, which way do you want to go? And he makes a choice.
Yeah.
Right? And then we just
That's
roll
cool.
with what
Yep.
he wants to do,
Yeah.
So like those types of things, and with that that little backpack thing, push-ups with him, he thought were hysterical.
Yeah.
Right now, all of
Yeah.
a sudden, those air squats, like
Yep.
doing them with him,
Super cool.
way funnier. A couple of pull-ups with the baby on your back, right? He thinks is great. And it's really, really difficult to do with a 2-year-old that's kind of like pointing out, hey, this is daddy's ear, this is daddy's
Yeah,
eye,
right, yeah.
and that finger goes right into the eye, and you're
Yeah.
like, yeah, absolutely, yeah. You also found daddy's contact. That's fantastic. Yeah, so like all of those things can be modified to include your family.
Absolutely.
Yep.
And then you're doing the twofold thing. Like not only are you getting it in because you need to, but also you're setting the example that it's important and that y'all's time is important.
Right.
So-
And as they get older, again, you can start implementing more and more things to
yeah, for
do
sure.
together.
Like you're starting to train jiu-jitsu with your kids, man,
Yeah,
which is pretty cool.
And I
Yeah,
see
it's awesome.
Emily doing fitness kickboxing with
Yep.
Jen.
And she's in jiu-jitsu.
Yep,
now.
and she's
Yeah.
in jiu-jitsu. Zeke and Sayla will go out with, and Safina will all go with Kim into the garage. Kim has we have a treadmill out there and some a couple of dumbbells, and so Kim will do a workout. And so it's funny, I'll see the kids out there and they're with mom. Like sometimes I'll pull up after I come back from training and she's working out in the garage. Kids are all out there doing some version of what she's doing,
Yeah.
Yep.
and or Safina will want to walk on the treadmill after she's done while she's doing some, and it's cool. And Kim has told me, she's been very purposeful. She was like, I want our kids to see us prioritizing working out,
Right.
as like, because then it's not a thing that they have to learn how to do, or like, oh, this is important for me to do. It's just something you do.
We've
That's
just been
what
doing
my
it.
parents were
Yeah.
like that. My dad and mom worked out, and we went to the gym with them, and I worked out with my dad since I was really young, and so that was always, it's like not an option. You just keep training. You know?
Yeah. What's that like as a gym owner? Like having your kids around? Like, are they? Because there is a certain amount of, I think, kids like, oh, you're interested in what mom and dad do, but then when you're at work with mom and dad, then it's kind of like, mom and dad took me to work. Yeah, like how into the TFK stuff and all of that are they? Or are they becoming?
They are a lot into it. It's really cool. I think it's the age now, like
Right.
they get it. And then, I mean, there's a level of it, and it's not me. It's a level of like all of my trainers that are there. They love them. And they know them well. Like one of my trainers is Robin, who's also does jiu-jitsu with us at Hana Village. He's a big jiu-jitsu sponsor. Like, so there's that connection there too, but then just overall the enjoyment of it. Now for a while they're like, Jennifer, when they were little, like Jennifer wasn't coming, and I'm like, just come anytime. She's like, I'm not bringing the kids up there.
I get it.
Like,
I get
so
it,
I
man.
get it.
Yeah, that's
but
where
now
Kirsten is. Yeah,
in
right.
the season we're at, but kids are welcome there.
Yeah.
You know?
Right.
Like we have a lot. We have some that bring the baby in the stroller and just park it at the side and go do it. And they typically, the noise puts them to sleep.
Yeah.
You know, which is weird because sometimes it's screaming music. But,
Yeah, it's like loud music, people hitting the bags.
No. So they're at the age now where like Emily loves it, Jarrett loves it. Jake doesn't do it as much, but he is disciplined on his jiu-jitsu now.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So-
and working out in the garage too.
Yeah,
I see that a
so-
lot. That makes me happy, man. Yeah, my kids are training jiu-jitsu now, and it's awesome, man. I totally agree. Bring your kids along to be a part of what you're doing, but then also in other aspects of your life too. I'm starting to.
Yeah.
Well, and I think also if you're disciplined with your time, so like all of that is accurate, especially depending on the season of life, but also like sometimes it's hard to do that even with your kids to get a workout
100%.
in.
Yeah.
If you're disciplined with your time and your intent, that may be okay. Everybody's in bed. I'm gonna go get a workout.
Right.
Or
Yeah.
I'm gonna get up early.
Yep.
So
That's where we're at right now.
Yeah.
Right. Like the
it
kids
may-
are up by 6:30 or 7 every morning, and that's probably the best time that they have all day.
right.
So the option is get a workout in after they go to bed at 10 p.m. or later, or up at 4:30.
Yeah.
You know, at the gym at 5 to make sure that you're getting what you need.
Yeah.
It all comes down to the discipline.
Yeah. Any combination of that is the move.
That's helped
Yep.
me, like being able to go over to cross train with Double Five and go to the morning classes twice a week has helped me so much, because on those days I know I can plan on like it. Training or working out didn't displace any of my family time throughout the day, so
Yeah.
I have more to give to them. But
Yeah.
if I don't do that, it's like, well, now I got to go train at this time, or I got to go work out at this time. It eats into the family
Right, so
time.
you
I
gotta
would've
squeeze
had.
it in.
Yeah,
It's already out of the way. The days that I do the 6:30
Yep.
a.m., you're right. Like I've already checked that off.
out.
you
Yeah,
know, like,
it's out of the way.
It's good.
The rest of the day is work and family. So
right.
yeah, I love it, man. This is really awesome. I'd like to actually read the full book
Yeah, it's a
sometime.
great book.
But
What's it called? The Way of the Warrior.
The Warrior Poet Way.
There we go. The Warrior Poet Way.
And I don't know, the scripture really, he lists the scripture at the beginning of this chapter
Yeah.
too, which is what I like. But I don't know, it popped out to me like it's pointed. What does the Lord require of you? Do justly, love mercy, and walk humbly with God. Like it's kind of like, oh, okay.
yeah, I love that. That's mine. The ESV says kindness, to love kindness, or steadfast love is another translation. But the King James says mercy. I had a coworker that had that sign in his office.
Really?
Yep.
Oh,
Yep.
cool.
But he's told you what's good, to do those things. I love it, man. And I think we talk a lot on this podcast about parenting and about prioritizing work and family. And I know we've repeated some of these concepts before, but it takes more than once for me to learn these things and to grow in them as as time goes on. And also seasons change. My kids are getting older, and Lucas, like, probably the last time we discussed this, Kirsten was pregnant and Scotty wasn't here yet. So, and things change that fast.
Oh my
for your
gosh.
kids. Yeah. And Levi now just becoming like way more aware and more, his needs are more specific.
And never shutting up.
Dude, it doesn't get any better.
yeah.
Now when he gets really, like, he really knows what's up, then it gets way more. I mean, Zeke now is like, we were in the car for 8 hours like a couple weeks ago going up to Oklahoma, and I brought Zeke with me, and it was so nice because Kim was recovering from her surgery, and but I just wanted him to be around all my friends that are just godly men, and so we were stuck in this car together, and but it was hilarious, and he was drawing everybody in the car and showing them what their superpowers were.
He was drawing
Yeah.
this with superpowers.
Yeah.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah.
Well, and I mean, in that environment, like normally I'd say a 6-year-old kid around other people that are just maybe not well-adjusted men might be annoyed or whatever, but it was cool because it was a safe place with his uncles that are like, let me see they care about what he has going on, and they treated him with respect, and they were really excited to just hang out with him for that. And that was a long time to be in the car with a 6-year-old kid, but man, it was a good time.
He was sharing his Twizzlers.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I know.
That's big.
Oh,
man.
dude, he gave more away than he ate.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah. Yeah, that was a good one.
I just want to add too, like, so we're talking about all this. We all have kids, but like all the things we're talking about too, like that applies to your life balance in general.
Yes.
Yeah, because it's
For
not
us-
just there.
Right.
Yeah.
For us specifically, that's where the
Right.
friction is, I guess,
Yes.
if you will.
Yeah.
But
yeah,
like,
that's the point right now.
Yeah.
Right. This is one of the things I always tell like young men who are. So, I didn't get married until I was 34, and in a lot of the Christian world, that I might as well have been 100, right? Right? Like, oh, you're 34?
Yeah.
I was like, yeah, well, just get ready for, being single at the retirement home, right?
Yeah.
But like one of the things that I really encourage men and women to do is, when they're like, oh, God just hasn't found me, I thought this was the right person and I'm never going to get married and blah, blah, blah. Like, put in the work to be the type of person you would want to marry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Right? And there's a lot of these young guys that come to me and they're like, well, I'm never going to find, the right girl, and this and that are happening. And I'm like, how much time are you investing to be a man that is worthy of somebody's hand?
Right.
Right.
Right? Because these are the things that you have to do. You've got to learn to be disciplined. You've got to learn to prioritize Christ above everything else.
Yes.
You have to learn to take care of yourself. You're going to need to learn how to cook, to do your own laundry.
Yeah.
Right? You're also going to need to learn how to manage your time.
Right.
Because you think, oh, as soon as I get married, this is going to solve all these problems. Nope. It creates
It gets way worse.
Then you have
massive,
two people to
yeah,
manage.
it creates massive issues, and especially when you're a newlywed. We talk about the work-life balance. Well, it's hard enough as a single guy to figure out, like, all right, well, I put in 60 hours this week, but I really want to go hang out with my friends. Do I have the funds to go do it? Do I have the time to go hang out with my buddies? And when your buddies are telling you, hey man, you're really becoming a workaholic or whatever, like, that stings a little bit. Well, okay, it's exponentially harder when you have a wife who's like, hey, I would just like you to can you just come down and watch just sit down and watch a show with me?
Yeah.
Because in my mind, sure, I can do that, but this is a waste of my time
Right.
watching this show. Right, but wrapping my head around,
And how many
what
things
that
is
means.
she doing that's a waste of her time
100%, right? Like there's all of
dealing with you?
yeah, exactly.
And she has her list of things and her friends and her
100%.
balance. And now you're balancing all of these together.
So the idea that marriage is going to fix those things is just one of the biggest misnomers. And it's worse when people who are in marriages that are unhealthy or becoming unhealthy, they're like, what's going to fix it is when we have a kid. Nope.
No.
If you thought it was bad before,
Correct.
right? One kid is terrible to throw into that mix, and 2 kids is the worst possible idea, right? But the reason that I say all of that is to Josh's point. Like, all of this stuff is applicable no matter what season of life that you're in. These are the same
Man,
things I
woman,
did.
doesn't-
Yeah,
yeah.
these are the same things that I did as a single guy, preparing myself for whatever my future was going to be. Hopefully I was going to get married one day.
Yeah.
Because I wanted to be somebody that was worthy of the affection of a good woman.
Yep.
And if you're not preparing yourself for that, then it's not just gonna happen.
Yeah.
Like, oh, well, there's nobody that's good out there to date. Okay, cool. Is the person in the mirror good to date?
Yeah, right.
Right?
Yeah.
Like, let's start with that.
Right.
Right? Instead of the, like, oh, I'm, the good guy syndrome or whatever else it is, like, go take a good, long, hard look at the person in the mirror
Self-assess.
and say, hey, you know what? Am I the type of person that I would want one of my friends to marry?
Right. And beyond that,
that's a tough deal.
even beyond relationships like that, all of your relationships, is this the type of friend that I should be? Is this
Yeah.
the type of...
That's
Absolutely.
important.
Yeah.
That's
Right?
important.
Coworker.
Am I
all
the
that.
type of Am I the type of friend? Am I the type of coworker that I would want? Sometimes it's that I would want, but more often than not, and this is a Jordan Peterson thing, is that he talks about in 12 Rules, treating yourself like somebody you're responsible for. Right? Because if we're responsible, like we don't think anything about feeding and watering our dog and making sure that our pets are nourished, or that, somebody that we're taking care of, that they have the medicines and stuff that they need. But we're terrible about doing that ourselves.
Oh, gosh.
Treating ourselves like somebody we're responsible for kind of changes and shifts that mindset.
Dude.
So that's one of those things that, like, all right, are you the type of friend you would want your friends to have, that you would want the people you care about to have? Because that's essentially what's going on.
Right.
Right. And if you're looking at yourself and you're like, no, I wouldn't want one of my friends to date me. I wouldn't want one of my friends to have me as a friend. Like, I would say that I'm pretty toxic or whatever. Then
Probably should start there.
yeah, like, start doing the work. Like, put in the work, man.
Put in the work.
That's
Leave
it.
it with that. Put in the work.
Yeah.
Put in the work, jerks.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Put in the work.
You got anything else?
I mean, other than slapping the skin off the top of your head, that
Anytime.
no,
Anytime you're ready. Anytime you're ready.
I told you last time that this one would be more rambunctious, but actually Lucas kind of kept it on track a little bit.
I kept it on track.
Surprisingly,
I always do.
No.
People are starting to realize that.
No, you're the master of mayhem.
The master of mayhem. That is a good name.
Yeah.
That is a good name.
You're the commander of chaos.
Commander of chaos. Master of
See,
mayhem.
do we have any more?
Lord of
The
war.
Sultan of shenanigans.
Oh,
Butters
yeah.
was Professor Chaos. That makes me happy. There you go. If you know, you know.
Oh, dude, that's so funny, man. You getting closer to me for what? Actually, your leg hairs are keeping my legs warm, so it's kind of cold in here. It feels good. Thanks, guys.
You squeeze into this center shot for prayer.
Yeah,
You promise.
I actually need this closeness. You know why? Because this morning, I told Selah, my 4-year-old, come give Daddy a hug. She said, nope, no hugs and no kisses for you because you fart too much, is what she told me.
Wow.
And I was devastated.
Devastated.
I'm like,
hey,
I have a condition. It's called being a dad.
Yeah.
fix yourself. We just talked about this.
Good grief. Do the work.
Do the work.
Yeah. Go outside
There's
when you got a fluffy.
Fluffy.
That's what they call him, Bluey.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, Bluey's a good show.
Oh, it's so good.
That's funny.
Don't get us sidetracked on that. All right, well, I'll get into Isaac's camera so he can pray.
Okay, come on.
Pray.
Dear Heavenly Father, we love you, and we thank you so much for the ways that you love us and all that you've done for us, Lord. I pray that it would never be lost on us what you've done for us, and the power and the beauty of the gospel, that it would be in the forefront of our mind in every interaction with everyone, in every relationship, in our marriage, in our relationship with our children, our coworkers, our friends, God, that what you did for us would just be first and foremost, and then that would flavor and season the way that we treat other people, and the mercy that we have for other people and the understanding we have for them. Lord, I pray that you help us to rightly prioritize our lives and to be men that can properly manage those and execute on those priorities, Lord, and especially as it pertains to our relationship with our spouses, with our children, and in work, God, that you would just equip us to do good work and to glorify you, Lord. It's too much to handle on our own, but we know that with you we can properly execute and balance these priorities in our lives. And so we just thank you so much for the wisdom here today, and for this author. And Lord, I just pray you bless us and bless every listener that's listening to this podcast right now, whether they're in their vehicles or working out or wherever they're at, God, that you would just bless them in their families and their careers and in their spirit, God, and they would draw near to you and savor your word. We love you and we thank you. It's in Jesus' name we pray. Amen. No.
This has been Jesus in Jiu-Jitsu, episode 070.
Go train.